Mother's Day, a day for moms or women to be recognized for all we do. It is such a blessing to get notes and cards and get taken out to eat and other treats. But I share my heart with women today because it's even sweeter when we are the women and mothers God has called us to be. Here's a little of my story. Butch and I were married on May 18, 1985. In February of 1986, Butch and I attended a revival service, and both had thought we got saved. For years, I leaned on this emotional experience as the basis of my salvation. However, on February 5th of 2005, the Lord clearly revealed to me that I was not saved at that time. It was actually much later. In our Hope group, we read and discussed Colossians 1:6b. All over the world, the gospel is bearing fruit and growing since the day you heard it and understood God's grace in all its truth. As we discussed in our Hope group, that night my heart and mind were shocked by what I knew the Lord was saying to me. The Lord spoke clearly to me that I did not accept Jesus as my Savior in 1986. I had an experience. I attended church and even served, eventually as a preacher's wife, but I did not have a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. Satan convinced me that I was saved, but I can look back at the first 15 years or so of what I thought was my Christian life and see there was no consistent fruit or growth in my life. I heard the gospel, but not understood it in all its grace for me. I had become very frustrated with my life and marriage. Butch and I got married in 1985, and we had intense ups and downs, and through those my heart became very hard, and I felt like I hated him much of the time. Our communication was awful. We were on different pages throughout our marriage. We stayed married just because the Bible said we had to stay married. At times, I made decisions and lived as if it would end someday, even wanting it to end someday. I was the most unhappy person in the world. Everything changed for me in April of 2001. While Butch kept growing in the Lord and the Lord continued to bless his ministry, I kept trudging along with little joy or peace and no real desire to study the Bible. I felt like I was not smart enough to understand it. I became so bitter that I would share my anger and frustration with other women. One of my friends got angry at Butch with me and helped me feel so much better about myself. She sent a weird email to Butch and even shared our problems with our deacon. When approached, Butch was confused because from his perspective our marriage was better than ever. A couple of other ladies that I had shared with went to Butch and told them the email was talking about me. He was shocked and broken. He called me on my cell phone and told me, "You need to come on home because we need to talk." I knew he knew that I had been talking. Butch had asked me about things when he got the email and the comments from the deacon. I lied and told him everything was okay with us. When he called, I knew that I couldn't lie anymore. You see, lying had been a consistent pattern in our marriage. I justified it as hiding or it's for the best, but it was lying. On the drive home for the first time in my life, I surrendered to God and I laid it all out. Butch came home and we talked for hours. I shared the hurt and the pain that I had been feeling for years. All Butch did was cry and write and listen. He carries the same piece of paper in his wallet today. From that day, everything has been different. No, I'm not perfect, and yes, I still get frustrated, and I still feel dumb and stupid at times. But Jesus is teaching me, Jesus is growing me, and fruit is being produced in and through me in ways that only God can get credit for. I have a peace and a joy that I never had before. Our marriage is getting better and better, and I love Butch more today than I ever have. This Mother's Day, my hope for every woman and mother is that we will experience the blessings of doing life God's way. The Word tells us in Genesis 2:18 and in 20b that Eve was made to be a suitable helper for Adam. We are to be a helpmate for our husbands, whatever that means. In my marriage, Butch needs for our home to run well. It needs to be a safe place for him, a place where he loves to be. From 1985 until 2001, I did not accept my role as Butch's helper. I lived in disobedience to the Lord. I lived mostly for me and for the kids. I played the Christian game well in public. But until I gave my life to Christ and accepted His ways and His will, I was lost. I was clearly miserable. In April 2001, God brought healing to my life as I truly trusted in Him. Today, by the grace of God, I accept my role as a woman, a wife, and a mother. As a wife and mother, Proverbs 31 tells us that she was a worker at home and brought good, not harm, to her husband. Ladies, if at all possible, we are to stay at home with our children. We must never neglect our home for the sake of more things or even other ministries. Our greatest ministry begins at home. It is the greatest place to work in the world. If you have to work, make sure you don't neglect your children or your husband in the process. I work outside the home a little, like many of you, but my family is my primary job. In Titus 2:3-5, the word tells the older women to be reverent in the way they live, not to be slanderers or addicted to much wine, but to teach what is good. They can train the younger women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, and to be subject to their husbands. I had assumed that when Jelly got into school that I would go back to work. God had another plan. Now I have time to invest into younger women. God uses me, as scared as I am at times, to teach younger women his ways. I'm even being used to disciple girls that are a lot smarter than me, girls that know more of the Bible than me, but God is still using me. God has saved me, and he is changing me. The gospel really is good news. Mothers and women, I hope you have a God-filled and wonderful Mother's Day. For each of us, this will require some changes in attitude, lifestyle, schedules, goals, and priorities. For some of you, like me, it will require salvation. Only through a faith relationship with Jesus Christ can we even hope to live as a wife or a mother in the way the Lord has called us to live in his word.